Hello, loves. Louise Edington, Wisdom Weaver of Cosmic Owl Astrology, also the Cyberpunk Witch Priestess of the Stars. And I'm here today with a week ahead forecast for the week beginning November the 2nd. Now, I am recording this on October the 21st because I'm going away for a trip with my partner, my husband, my lovely man of we've been together 31 years now, can you believe it? But it's all go because I've also just come back from teaching or facilitating a peer group at the wonderful OPA retreat, the Organization for Professional Astrology. I am a peer group leader, for OPA, and also a mentor, and I'm running a 6-month mentor program again next year. That's online. And I'm also facilitating another in-person peer group, and that will be for the 3 days before UAC, the big United Astrology Conference in Chicago. Oprah have actually rented a 5-bedroomed Airbnb. They've actually rented 3, but I'm in one of them. And so me and 4 participants will spend a whole 3 days together in a lovely Airbnb, and it's going to be amazing. So if you want to do peer groups and you haven't done one with me, because you have to do peer groups with different facilitators each time, come to Chicago. Anyway, so I'm having to record this well ahead of time, as you may have gathered. So October the 21st for the week beginning November the 2nd. But I wanted to get it out there because we've got so much going on. And so there may be a lot of things happened by the time these aspects happen, because as you know, we're in a process and a cycle of becoming, and big changes are happening. So I'll take a look at the start of the week, and we'll go by day by day. But I also did pull 3 cards, of course. But before I show them, I'll give you a glimpse of them, and then we'll do the full reading of the cards at the end of the day by day forecast. And then I will create this into also a written forecast for Substack, break it down day by day from the transcript. But let's dive in. Before I do, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, unless you are one of those tiny chihuahuas in a tiny purse yapping away that gives me thumbs down or tells me that I did false advertising because you didn't get the thumbnail on my video. What will people come up with next? So many tiny chihuahuas. Thank you, Taylor Swift, my spirit animal, for giving me that visual. Anyway, let's dive in. First, glimpse of the cards. So I pulled the Witch of Threads, and I pulled this reversed. So I'm actually feeling I'm going to leave this one reversed. Threads is more fire. 5 of Discs. There is going to be some grief around and some sense of loss. So we'll talk more about that at the end when I do the full reading. But we also get the Great Mother again, and we'll talk more about that too. So the time ahead is not awful, but you know, it's there are some challenges. We've got a lot more sign changes and so on and so forth. And we are really kind of moving into this time now where the big shift is coming next year, and we're starting to feel it. Before I do, I want to show you these. Look at these. Lynn Bell is a very well-known astrologer. You probably know her if you know astrology. Anyway, she stayed at my house for a night after the Oprah peer group, and she gifted me these, not knowing that I have a theme of spirals on my new website. I have the Spiral Codex, which will be my main membership when I launch, and also the Spiral Weave. But I'm going to hold a launch party So I'm going to do another short video. I'm going to decide when that's going to be. And when I say a launch party, I am going to do a live, I'm just going to come and talk to you, show you guys my new website, and there might be a special offer for when my new membership opens up. So you might want to come along live. Alrighty, so let's dive in. I haven't decided when that launch will be. It'll be after my trip, so it'll be this first week in November that we're doing here, because I haven't got time to do before. Okay, so we're looking ahead for the week beginning November the 2nd, which happens to be my daughter's birthday. She's 28, heading towards her Saturn return. But we start this week with Jupiter is slowing down. Jupiter is at 25 degrees now. You can see it's moving slow, getting ready to station retrograde. It's moving to the degree it will go retrograde at. Now, Jupiter does not go retrograde till November the 11th, but know that this is starting to slow down. The other, where is it? Here, Mercury has moved into Sagittarius, has been whizzing along, but is also now moving slow because Mercury is going retrograde during this week that we're going to be talking about. And Mercury will retrograde all the way back to 20 Scorpio, and so is already well in the shadow period of the retrograde. Now then, how I use shadow is paying attention to what comes up and what you are reviewing and what you are reflecting on before this Mercury retrograde. I do not believe in all the hype and the fear over Mercury retrograde. I also do not believe in not launching things during the retrograde, but that's me. Talk more about that later. The moon starts the week in Pisces, conjunct Saturn and about to conjunct Neptune. So both Saturn and Neptune have moved back into Pisces now to finish their journey in the sign of Pisces before they both station direct and move into Aries. Pluto's now direct. In fact, Pluto, Pallas Athena, Chariklo and asteroid Lilith are all now direct in Aquarius. They all turned around before. We've still got Uranus, Hygeia has gone retrograde, and Eris, Chiron, Ceres, Neptune, Saturn, Nessus, all retrograde. I don't count Black Moon, Lilith, or the nodes because they always move backwards overall. Okay, I think that's it. We do start the week with this T-square, cardinal T-square between Jupiter, Venus, Eris and Chiron, which is going to shake some tables. It's going to bring some big opportunity, though, to begin to create the change that you want to see in the world. Because T-squares can be quite dynamic and push for change. And, this has got the both benefits, but Venus and Jupiter are about manifestation and growth. And remember that Venus and Jupiter were exactly conjunct on August the 12th with Sirius, the sun of our sun in Cancer. And so this is an opening square from things that began on August the 12th, which is when my book was published. So on that note, don't forget to leave me a review on Amazon if you have my book, no matter where you bought it. I seem a bit stuck with reviews. I keep asking for them and nobody's putting them on. They really, really help the visibility on Amazon. So please, 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 just as any interaction on these videos helps the visibility too. So we start the day or the week on November the 2nd with the moon over here, as I mentioned, in Pisces. Earlier on, there is a quincunx to Venus, and that's an aspect of adjustment. And I think this is important because Venus is just coming up to do the same to Saturn. Now, Saturn is back where Venus stationed direct, way back in March, late March, when I was doing my last Venus retrograde class. There's many echoes of that period. The whole period during the Venus retrograde was right in the first lot of eclipses this year, all in the same signs, when we had Mercury and Venus go retrograde from Aries to Pisces, from the first sign of the zodiac to the last sign of the zodiac. And the eclipses back then were at 9 Aries and 15 Pisces. That was, 23 Virgo. Beg your pardon. That was the full moon was 23 Virgo on March the 14th. And then we had a solar partial eclipse at, excuse me, oh gosh, on March the 29th at 9 Aries. So we're getting a lot of echoes from that retrograde. And after the retrograde, Venus has been morning star, and now she's about to disappear from the eastern horizon, and she will disappear behind the sun for over 50 days. So, this aspect before she does it is really another bit of a reality check about the process we've been in since then. So that's all to say. We start with that moon quincunx Venus, but really all this is happening together. Incidentally, her retrograde back in March began with the moon involved as well. We're in such powerful times of this divine feminine emerging, in all of us. So anyway, bigger aspects on November 2nd. Then Venus will oppose Chiron here exactly. I already talked about this T-square, but we're looking at our identity wounds. We're looking at, have we let the light in, and are we finding our essence and our role of who we truly are beneath all the layers of this crazy society that we live in. And then all these planets are speaking together on this first day. The moon will then make a water grand trine to Jupiter, but you can see we also have Mars and Black Moon Lilith. We have this ongoing water grand trine, which is really kind of bringing up a lot of that grief and loss, but also clearing things out, making things clear and eroding things as well. We know what water does. So yes, so all of this is happening together. The moon will conjunct Saturn, will trine Mars after trining Venus, then will conjunct Neptune before moving into Aries. But before that, Mercury in the shadow, right? Remember, Mercury's in the shadow of its retrograde, and in fact is within the station retrograde zone. So things might be going a little bit wonky. You might be beginning to understand what needs revisiting, what needs rethinking. Also, it's time to slow down and go into that review mode. Mercury will trine Ceres at 3 Aries and Sagittarius. And this is important because Ceres is also beginning to slow down to station direct at 2 Aries, which is where Venus met the Sun in the middle of her retrograde on March the 22nd. We are really beginning to see the truth of things. More and more people are becoming awake and aware. It's really magical times. And after the moon moves into Aries, as usual, it runs the gamut of aspects to all of the outer planets that have not moved backwards into or retrograded back into their previous signs yet. So the moon will sextile Uranus. That's kind of a bit of awakening. And the moon will also sextile Pluto, which is now direct, and sextile Sedna, which for some reason I do not have on. There she is. So the moon is at the midpoint, really, of Pluto, Uranus, and Sedna, which is where Saturn and Neptune will come back to next year. We can feel this big shift coming, right? We can just feel it. And I do want to mention as well that Pluto, because Pluto's being aspected, is still out of bounds, but is now moving back towards the ecliptic. Pluto's not spending much time out of bounds. We talked about this on a video about 6-degree Aquarius that I did with Dawn Hild. You can find that on my video list, but I'll also link to it from this video, because Pluto is going out of bounds to the south for the last time. Pluto's going out of bounds for the last time in over 3,000 years. And Rosie Finn said that this is a good thing. This is a time of people rising up, and we're beginning to see it. All right, so Jupiter on November the 2nd will exactly square Eris then. So that T-square again. The moon will then conjunct Ceres, I've already mentioned that, and trine Mercury. So the moon is activating all of these things. So this is bringing our emotional response into these big shifts as well. And then Venus, of course, will oppose Eris and square Jupiter. This is shake tables time, and I think we're beginning to see people do that. Last aspect on this day is the Aries moon will trine Hecate, the way shower, holding the lamp, guiding our way forward, and she is now in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the sign of the future, of truth, of higher knowledge, higher understanding. On to November the 3rd, which is Monday. So November the 3rd. We start the day with the moon still in Aries, and well, right there on that eclipse degree. But anyway, that's beside the point. We'll sextile Pallas Athena first of all, which is, so this is fire and air, and Pallas Athena is very happy in the sign of Aquarius. She is strategizing for the future, right? She is strategizing to bring wise justice, all of these things. I'm actually recording this on the day that Virginia Giuffre's book, I think that's how you actually say her name. I've been saying Giuffre, but it's Giuffre, is released. She was one of Epstein's survivors, and I've already started listening to it, and it's quite harrowing. It's just, all these men have to be outed, I'm sorry, so that we do not do this anymore. Then the moon, at the same time as the sextile to Pallas Athena, will also square off to Pholus. Pholus is that cause and effect. It's that kind of inventory centaur in Capricorn. But, you know, this at the collective level is more taking the inventory of how we collectively got where we're at right now. The lid's off, we can't unsee it anymore, and we have to do things differently. And then the moon will trine Juno, which is over here, sacred contracts, more fire and air, fire, creation, burn it down, but keep doing it. But you can also see we've still got this really strong T-square and this amazing water grand trine, cleansing and starting new things, all happening at once. Then later on November the 3rd, Chiron over here, the healer, will actually trine Vesta over here in Sagittarius, saying, okay, you know, things are starting to heal. We are beginning to step into, if it is to be, is up to me energy, and we're starting to find our place in what we are creating in this new paradigm we're moving into. And then the moon, the Aries moon, will make that opportunity sextile aspect to Chariklo, who is helping us to weave a new story, and asteroid Lilith, who's saying, no more. Talk to the hand. We are not doing this anymore. I love it when it puts my hand up like that. It's kind of wild. And I can't put my hand down until I stop sharing, so we'll just leave it up. But the big aspect on the 3rd is Mars. Mars reaches the anaretic or last degree of Scorpio. Mars is the traditional guide for the sign of Scorpio. I've called it the psychic surgeon. Mars really digs deep into Scorpio, into the shadows. This is the anaretic liminal degree of threshold of change, and Mars makes an exact water trine to Neptune that is all part of this. And Neptune is kind of letting the clouds clear and saying, where have we been deluded? Where have we not seen? Where have we been in this realm of just not seeing clearly what's happening, going on, and what change is coming? So this could be an awful lot revealed on this day, on November the 3rd. You know, I kind of do wonder, amongst one of many things, I do wonder if, as a result of Virginia's book being published, if other survivors will start to publish their names, or if the files will be released, because the Dems are not backing down on that. For once, they're doing something right. Okay. On to November the 4th. We have the moon over here. The moon activates that cardinal T-square that I started with at the start of the week, pushing us forward. But remember, Jupiter is slowing down. So there is an element of this is feeling like we're pushing against things, you know, like we may have some things to go over before, but this is dynamic. This is saying it's time to really start shaking things up and seeking justice, okay, in so many ways. Then the moon will also trine Vesta, which is the heart of the state, right? But also of your inner vision. Okay, so, you know, all these things just working so much together. Then the moon will conjunct table shaker Eris and square Jupiter, so all of that, and oppose Venus exactly. But then Mars immediately after that. So I'm actually going to get this. So Mars will move into Sagittarius. This is the truth warrior. Mars likes fire signs, in my opinion. I don't use those archaic terms anymore. But Mars does like the speed of fire signs, and Mars joins Mercury. Remember, Mercury is about to go retrograde. Hecate, Juno, and Vesta in the sign of the courts, justice, natural laws, fighting for justice, fighting for all these things. We'll look what else Mars does in a minute, but hint, hint, look at all this over here and here. But anyway, so Mars moves into Sagittarius, and Mars is moving fast. Things are going to start shifting really fast, even with Mercury retrograde. I'm thinking this Mercury retrograde could bring some things to light, some truth, some knowledge, some information to light. And when it goes into Scorpio, this is going to dig deep too. Okay. Moon moves into Taurus on November the 4th as well. I always love that when Moon moves into Taurus after so much fire and air. It goes into Taurus and says, all right, okay, slow down a little bit. Let's steady. Let's get earthed. Let's get rooted. Let's get rooted in our values and really kind of just slow down a little bit and say, okay, where are we actually going with all of this? Because remember, this is heading towards the full moon now, right? So we've got the full moon imminent. I'll look at that in a minute. November the 4th, Mars opposes Uranus. I think Mars ingress into Uranus is going to bring some big shocks, turnarounds, slaps around the head, but also awakening. More people are going to go, holy crap, how could I not see this before? Eyes are being awakened. This is just like, and we see it happening. It's going to start happening faster, in my opinion. Then the moon in Taurus, lovely earthy Taurus, will square off to Pluto in the fixed signs. saying it's time to dig deep into your inner gold and really do your own inner transformation from the inside out to move forward with all of this regeneration and growth that we have available to us. I see it happening though. I know not all of you do, but I really do see it. You know, clean energy is now cheaper than fossil fuel energy in the United States, at least. Change is happening no matter what those powers that be everywhere are trying to do. All right. But after the moon squares Pluto, it will oppose Haumea, which is regeneration. And now these two are moving towards another square, which will not be till next year, but you know, they are moving towards yet another square. Aspect of the decade was my article on that square on Substack. I keep hoping to find time to update the article. I have not found it yet. Maybe I'll try and put it in the comments in the description so you can read the dates of the squares. But there was 13 squares, the number of the goddess, from 2022 to 2028. Regeneration and transformation and growth, and the moon activates it. On to November the 5th. Remember, the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. That was Guy Fawkes for the UK when Parliament was, he tried to blow Parliament up, right? Okay, didn't succeed. But Pluto will trine Sedna. Interestingly, I've just been watching a presentation by Alan Clay of Dwarf Planet University in Australia. And Sedna consciousness really is about letting go of our old ideas and thoughts to move forward rather than trying to solve it from that old paradigm. It's about letting go of old frameworks. We are moving into a time that is really, we've never been in before, and we really have to think differently. And this Sedna consciousness is really, really inviting us to do so. Okay. Because Sedna consciousness is kind of a do or die energy, and she's very transcendent. But as he says, Saturnian solutions won't solve Sedna crises. It's time to let go, move into a more spiritual understanding of you and the world, or a more connected consciousness, whatever you want to say. So this is a big trine as well. These planets are all speaking to her. But remember, Sedna has not been here since the end of the Great Ice Ages at the beginning of the Neolithic Age. This is a major time we're in, and we really are being asked to think differently. Okay, so then the moon, the Taurus moon, will trine Pholus. I've talked about him, the cause and effect, and square strategist, Pallas Athena. So these are planets activated over and over again, but this happens to be on the full moon. So whilst I will do a full video on the full moon, I want to show you quickly what this full moon is about on November the 5th. It's at 13 degrees. Number of the goddess, number of Pluto Haumea squares in feminine signs, Taurus and Scorpio. And Scorpio is the sign of power over paradigm, but also your deeper inner power, and this is based on values. And this is fixed signs. This is really about what do we want to manifest? What are we making real on this major full moon? Now then, I just want to change to the grid and just look at the aspects for this. Look at this. It's square Pallas Athena, which is a separating aspect, but it's also opposing the moon, that is opposing Black Moon Lilith. That's conjunct the sun. It's also aspecting the nodes. I'll look at that in a minute, and square to Chariklo and asteroid Lilith. So it's applying to that, which means the moon is moving to square these exactly Remember, she's helping us weave the new story, and this is the talk to the hand asteroid. This is a fixed T-square, but Black Moon Lilith is also there. This is saying we have to realize that we are interconnected and we have to work towards this new paradigm and make it based on solid values, shared values, and shared resources. This will apply to, the Earth's resources, how we use them, but also how we use our own inner resources. I'm not going to talk about the whole full moon, but I do want to emphasize that all these other aspects I'm talking about are connected because they're part of this, with both the lights full, shining this big old light down on all of us. It's a powerful full moon, okay, because of the number and because of the aspects, in my opinion. There's probably some other aspects, but like I said, I am going to do a full moon video anyway. So while still under this full moon energy, Vesta over here, she's the hearth, right? She's the state, she's the hearth, but she's also our inner flame in the sign of truth, natural law, exploration, higher experience of the divine in many ways as well. Will trine off to Chiron and Eris. And I don't know exactly when this is happening, but I don't know if you all saw the reports that the new Pope, Pope Leo, he's got pluses and minuses, as they all do, but he's a reformer, just like Francis was before him. Apparently, he has plans to break up Opus Dei. If you don't know what Opus Dei is, go back to Dan Brown's book, whatever it was called, the whole, Dan Brown's books anyway. Opus Dei are kind of a really powerful sect within the Roman Catholic Church. They are the ones that J.D. Vance is connected to. Opus Dei are not good, really. They have not done good things. They hold on to this extreme power within the church. It's a personal prelature, apparently. It was founded in 1928. It promotes holiness in the lives of its members through ordinary work and daily life, which sounds good, right? But it's controversial due to claims of aggressive recruiting, secretive practices, and allegations of controlling people's lives. Sounds like women, what's that? One that Tom Cruise was in, and the Mormon Church, right? It's said to have had including forced labor and financial exploitation, particularly against young women, although of course they deny it. But anyway, the Pope is supposedly breaking it up. So there's been many reports, and it's unprecedented in the church's history. So this is this kind of thing. Eris shaking it up, breaking it up, turning tables, like in the temple, right? And Chiron healing the wounds. Vesta, the state or the hearth of the church in this case. But this will apply in other cases too. All right, so that's respond to that full moon, and I'm going on too long. Anyway, the moon over here, still in Taurus, will aspect the nodes by the time it moves to 16 degrees, and the nodes are speeding up retrograde away from the eclipses. And this is, kind of another step. This is the first full moon, I believe, since the eclipses. It is, yeah. The first full moon since we had the lunar total eclipse. No, it's the second, on September the 7th. But, each one is an integration process. Anyway, the moon will then aspect this little bundle here. I've talked about those. and will sextile Nessus. He's been quiet. Nessus is the buck stops here. We've had it with these abuses of power, going back to things like Opus Dei. Wonder where all this could go. November the 6th, we're on to Thursday. The moon is still in the sign of Taurus and will sextile Jupiter. First of all, earth and water. You can see actually this water grand trine has broken up. Okay, we still have this ongoing water trine, but the water grand trine is easing after that full moon. There should be a little bit less grief and loss after the light shining on it. We can feel things starting to go and release. But then the moon will also sextile Saturn over here, kind of clearing things out. Mars will oppose Sedna exactly. I've talked about that already. And the moon will then sextile Neptune at that anaretic degree, which Neptune will not leave, saying we are kind of starting to sculpt this new life because we are starting to see clearly. Then the moon will enter Gemini, woohoo, my moon sign, and things again will get rather chaotic because as soon as the moon moves into into Gemini, it will conjunct Uranus, will oppose Mars, will conjunct Sedna, and that will be more of this awakening energy. But we're now starting to wane a little bit, but not yet. We're still under that full moon. So we've still got the big old lights shining their light on what's coming to light, the truths that are coming to light. And then, and the moon will also trine Pluto, of course, and will make a quincunx to Sedna. So all of this big change, feeling it yet again. Then the moon will move to 3 degrees Gemini and will sextile Ceres, which is again another one that's starting to slow down, 2 station direct later. Ceres has been looking at how we fill our own needs, how we nurture ourselves first, how we put our oxygen mask on in this time of major change. Then on November the 6th, still under the full moon, Venus will leave her home sign and join the Sun and Black Moon Lilith and Haumea in Scorpio, following Mercury, following Mars, following these asteroid goddesses. I could talk about this loads, but Venus is going into Scorpio and she's actually going to activate the degree of their next Venus retrograde star point, which will be next October and which will be the star point return of the USA. You do not want to miss my Venus retrograde class next year. But she is going into that. She's she's going to head under the beams of the sun. She's disappearing to move towards her superior conjunction. I always think of this as Venus's transformation out there. This is she's learning something new because she's moving towards the other side of the sun, that when she re-emerges as the evening star, she will learn what she needs to let go of. So it's less available to us and it's more kind of collective in my view. But anyway, Venus moves into Scorpio, heading towards my Venus return, woohoo, at 5:39 p.m. Eastern on the 6th, while we're still under the full moon. And then the moon, last aspect for the 6th, will oppose Mercury, which is, as I mentioned, about station retrograde, looking at truths that are coming to light, new information coming in. It's going to be interesting. November the 7th, Friday, Venus Day. The moon has moved on in Gemini, will oppose Hecate, will oppose Juno, will bring more truths to light. These 3 were all retrograde together in Scorpio. I think these women are going to come forward, and more people about these things. I think they're going to come forward and say we cannot do this anymore. These cycles of abuses of power over women, children, LGBTQ, and boys. Okay, this is The sacred contracts with each other. Juno, moon opposing that. Truths are going to come to light. Then the moon will square the nodes yet again, as it does twice a month, but this time it's going towards the south node. More letting go, more release, more things coming to light. Moon will then aspect Chariklo, helping us to weave the new story, square off to Nessus, saying, no, buck stops here, we're done with this. Then Uranus on the 7th. Really, we're still under the full moon energy. Uranus re-enters Taurus. So now we've got Saturn, Neptune back in Pisces. Uranus will re-enter Taurus and will finish up the job around our values and a lot to do with money and resources, physical resources, our resources, and oppose our shared resources. So something's going to be finished off, something there could be some more shocks, it could be, the shocks about how actually the stock market does not represent the whole economy. We might finally learn that lesson. Then the moon over here, still in Gemini, will trine asteroid Lilith. Talk to the hand, we're done. And Venus will square Pluto. Now, Venus will square Pluto at 1 degree Scorpio Aquarius, but Venus, Pluto, and Ceres, if you remember, all met at 0 Aquarius back at December the 7th last year, when they were seeding the beginning of this new paradigm that we are creating. Venus is in Scorpio, probably revealing more of these abuses of power in all ways, and about the power over paradigm and how you've been part of it as well, but also how it's been out there. Venus square Pluto is really deep personal and soul values and saying, we're done. Venus is moving towards Pluto now, but remember, she's in her outer world journey. She is on the other side of the sun, saying it's time to stop this, time to change it. Moon on to November the 8th, Saturday, last day. The moon will sextile Chiron and Eris. You can more shake-ups. And then square Saturn. Another bit of a slap in the face, a bit of a reality check, but then the moon will oppose Vesta. More truths coming to light. I think this is going to be a really interesting Gemini moon journey because of the aspects and because of the other things that have changed signs. And of course, now the moon is moving out of bounds because that's what the moon does at the end of Gemini, right through Cancer. This, especially towards the end of this week, when the moon's in Gemini, things are going to start coming to light after the full moon release. Okay. The sun, still in Scorpio. Sun's not been making much aspects, really. Will aspect the nodes. It's making this like cleansing, purging kind of energy. The sun will get a little bit more active then. And then the moon will square off to Neptune. More things released. And the moon will move into the sign of Cancer, our basis of home and security, which is, and the moon's own sign, but is out of bounds. More cleansing, more washing away. But the sun is now coming up. This water grand trine is going to start forming again in the next week. Then the moon will trine Venus, which just moved into Scorpio. Water grand trine, so we're going to get some water trines again at the beginning of signs now as well. More cleansing, more washing away. Then Mars over here will trine Ceres, and that will trine Ceres at 3 degrees 4 minutes. Fire, Sag, Aries. Ceres is about to move back to 2 degrees of Aries, which is where the morning star Venus began on March the 22nd. This is action. This is burning it down or burning it off, and burning off that more warrior-like energy that we've been under with the Venus morning star, and thinking, what do we need to let go of? What do we need to get rid of so that we fulfill our own needs, meet our own needs more? The moon will join that party with a square to Ceres from Cancer as well. Then Pallas Athena over here, that strategist and pattern seer, and creating a pattern for the new future in many ways, or a strategy, will sextile Hecate. More fire, more creation, more passion, fire and air. It's kind of crazy. And then the moon will meet Hygeia, which is still at the station retrograde degree, reflecting on preventative health. So none of this happens again, ever. And that's it for the week. So I'm quickly going to read the cards, and then I really actually have to go because I'm supposed to be on a call, but it's fine because it's a friend. And so it's the Witch of Threads, but this two Witch of Threads. This is Witch of Threads, I Am Wise. Now I got her retrograde, and I'm going to say this means you've really got to go into your inner wisdom, and you're not listening to your inner wisdom. This is a bit of a warning that if you don't listen to your inner wisdom, you're not going to work with the energies. So this is wisdom. This is the red thread of myths, and we've all got light. No, I'm not going to read that quote because I don't like her. Eye of newt, toe of frog. Nope, not going to read that one either. But anyway, this one is, if you ask this one, she helps you walk through the labyrinth of your soul inward. So call on this Witch of Threads. Wear a red thread. I must get my new red thread on my wrist and walk that labyrinth inward. Okay. Then the five of everything is within. Okay. I keep thinking of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, which I never actually really watch, but isn't one of those lines say, my dear, you had it in you all along, or something like that? This is what we're learning, that we are a system in multiple systems, and this is all we really have that we can work with. But this is, I'm suffering. I want to read you a quote. So this is collapse. You may feel like everything's collapsing, and in some ways it is. But I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. That was Maya Angelou. So some things may be devastating in personal lives, or in collective lives. And all that energy under this full moon, you may feel a sense of grief and loss and suffering, but you do not have to be reduced by this. It's okay to accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. That's Martin Luther King Jr. And then the last card for this week is the wonderful Great Mother. She keeps coming up. This is the mystery of the goddess. This is the Great Mother. She, in all her forms, snake goddess, bird goddess, goddess of animals, pure mother bee goddess. There's so many goddesses. And I am many, I am one. This is the Great Mother Goddess in all her forms. In which way, in some ways, Ceres is her. But this is about honoring the Great Mother. This is honoring about the Earth Mother, Gaia, the physical, your connection with it all. So she is your kind of connection to move through any sense of grief and loss. And I'm going to see you next time, and I'm going to go on my other call. Bye.